As tens of thousands of people get laid off and millions of white-collar workers start realizing that AI is a real threat to their job security, in this episode, we're going to concentrate on something very important: optimizing your LinkedIn profile using AI. We are going to turn your LinkedIn profile into an asset, one that climbs the search engine rankings recruiters actually use. Because here's the truth: most people don't understand. Recruiters don't search for people, they search for keywords. I'm going to show you exactly how that works, how to use AI to your advantage, and then I'll give you the full prompt to download and reuse yourself. Whether you're preparing for a potential AI-driven layoff or you need to land a job right now, this is how you take control of the system instead of being filtered out by it. Hi, my name is Christian, and welcome to Creating Job Security by Mastering the AI Superstack. Before we start, in the next 3 episodes, we go deeper into turning AI into a real-world advantage. First, we'll break down how to read and understand Edgar filings using AI, so you can extract insights from complex financial documents in minutes instead of hours, a level of understanding that until now was largely limited to professional financial analysts. Then, we'll show you how to capture AI outputs in an efficient way that minimizes manual copy and paste, allowing you to store results directly into documents and spreadsheets with a simple click. And finally, we will show you how to use your smartphone for an AI voice mock interview, where you can practice answering real interview questions out loud and get structured feedback, building clarity, confidence, and job readiness without relying on another human being. So I welcome you to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss these upcoming episodes. So the agenda for this episode is very simple. I'm going to show you how to extract your LinkedIn profile because the AI models and platforms don't have access to your full profile. And then we're going to go over the prompt that we're going to use in detail. And finally, we're going to use that prompt to analyze, in this case, my profile, so you can get a better idea of how to use it. Let's talk about your LinkedIn profile. So the first thing you need to be aware of that your LinkedIn profile could have up to 14 different sections. So the key here is that the AI models cannot reach your LinkedIn profile completely. They can only reach like the public parts, and that's not what we want. We want full access. So in my particular case, I have 5 different sections that I want my LinkedIn profile to be analyzed for. And as you can see, I have my experience and I have my main section of the LinkedIn profile, and I have skills, etc. Right? So how do I print this to PDF? So the next step is to print your profile to PDF, and that is an art and it's not a science, and I'm going to show you why. So the best thing you can do is scroll down and understand where your profile ends. So right now, the last thing that I have in my profile is the Microsoft chairman and CEO, Mr. Nadella. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that he shows up in the print. So what I'm going to go is click on print in your browser and then scroll down. And if you see Mr. Nadella, he's right here, then you're good. But if you don't see him and he's even further down, what you have to do is you have to adjust the settings. Okay. So you're going to go into scale and you're going to go custom, and then you can adjust the scaling here to make that fit. Now, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of scaling. Don't be afraid of scaling down, because PDFs enjoy from something called vector scaling or vector-based rendering, which means that something that looks really small on the screen, like what you see right now, my print dialog, does not lose quality if I zoom in. So let me put a scaling of 10%. Okay. And it's going to download it to my download folder. And here's my download folder. And so if I open this document, you will see that it's extremely small right now. So I can zoom out and zoom in. You see, zoom out and zoom in, and no quality has been lost. Of course, I would need glasses to read this right now, but the AIs will be able to read through this document, no problem. So if your LinkedIn profile is really long, or the page in your LinkedIn profile is extremely long, let's say you have 50 years of experience, and instead of having 8 jobs like I have, you had 40 jobs or 50 jobs, that would be an extremely long page. The only thing you have to do is when you go to File Print, you go into more settings and you reduce the scaling. Okay. So it's usually set to default, and in my case, default is good because I'm going to see Mr. Nadella, who should be my last part of my profile. He should be there. So let's go back and set it to 50. And wait a second. I'm not going to print yet. And there he is. Okay. So that's what I want. The other thing that you have to be aware is that sometimes when you print to PDF, some of the formatting gets lost. So you might want to check headers and footers. And if you check headers and footers, then everything is going to show up. And we want that. We want some of this stuff. Okay. So I'm going to cancel this for a second. And I'm going to zoom out inside the browser. This is another technique. So let's go to File, Print again. And now it shows up correctly. You see? So I was zooming in and out of the print dialog box. That's one way of doing it. And then zooming in and out of your browser, which you can do with Control Plus or Control Minus. And I think in the Mac it's the same thing. And that will give you a very clean printout. So let's go and print this, and let me delete this. So I'm going to go to File, Print. And every time you print to PDF, what you want to do after you print is you want to confirm that everything looks good. So let's go to File, Print. And it's still kind of big. So let's go one more down. There we go. File, Print. Now it looks correct. Okay. So it looks correct. Let me go on and save it. And there it is. Okay. Now if I open this in my browser, I'm zoomed in, and that's a good printout. You see how everything looks, all the images look correct. And do I have Mr. Nadella? There he is. So that's a good print. And so what you have to do is you have to do this through every section. So if I'm going to go to, for example, experience, show all experiences. So I'm going to go on File, Print this. So my first job, I built Tiger Direct from scratch, tigerdirect.com. So let's make sure that shows up correctly. And there it is. So I'm going to print that. It's going to go to my PDFs. And you see it has the title experience. So that's exactly what the AI is going to analyze. And you can do that for all your sections. So if I go back here, let's go to education. I'm going to go to File, Print, and that's correct. So let's go and save that. And that's how you're going to extract your LinkedIn profile in order for the AIs to analyze it. Okay, it's time to look at the prompt, but before we do so, let's talk about the 3 main goals that the prompt's going to accomplish. First of all, we are going to treat your LinkedIn profile like if it was a website. So we're going to concentrate on the keywords. So the first question is going to be which industry you want to modify your LinkedIn profile to be searched for. And the reason why we do this is because recruiters recruiters are not searching for people. They're searching for skills. And if they use something like LinkedIn Recruiter, that platform is basically searching for keywords. And that's why we're going to do that. The second thing is, what is your current situation? So the second point of the prompt is what kind of signal you want to give out to the world. Are you available? Are you in recovery or stealth mode? Are you looking for an industry change? All those things matter. And of course, the AI cannot make that decision for you. So the third point is, how urgent do you need a job? And so if you really need a job as soon as possible, then the keywords and the sentences and the paragraphs are going to be tailored towards trying to get a job as soon as possible. And so those three things, those 3 points are basically all creating the same thing. They're creating search engine optimization for your LinkedIn profile. Think of your LinkedIn profile as a web page, and think of LinkedIn, the website, as the internet. And so when recruiters go to search for keywords, it's almost like looking at Google. And that's exactly what the whole prompt does. It basically is going to change everything so you look more appealing and you appear on the searches first. That's what we're trying to accomplish. So now let's look at the actual text inside the prompt. So before we start explaining this prompt, I just want to make sure that if you're not a technical person, you do not need a code editor like Visual Studio Code. You can open this prompt with Notepad and copy and paste it into your favorite AI. And here we go with the prompt. All prompts should start with a role. And one of the most important things here is that you will treat your LinkedIn profile as a strategic machine readable asset and not a resume. That's very important. And the next section is basically an introduction to the prompt. And it's going to go through the 3 questions: industry, situation, and urgency. And of course, it's going to tell you to upload the PDFs. And after that, you see all the questions with the multiple options that it has. And then it's going to validate, make sure that the PDFs were created correctly. We talked about this just a minute ago. If you don't have a correctly printed PDF, this is not going to work. And it's going to concentrate on the biggest, most important sections of your LinkedIn profile: headline, about, experiences, skills, etc. And then it's going to start scoring your current LinkedIn profile. And then after it scores everything, it's going to analyze your image. And then based on your 3 answers to your 3 questions, it's going to give you some rewrites and some suggestions. And it's going to give you a plan depending on the crisis path, if you need a job as soon as possible. And then it's going to start scripting everything that you need to do. And it's going to have some constraints like be direct, honest, no motivational fluff, and assume you're a competent person, and many other things. So let's run it. Let's see how it works. So let me copy the prompt. I'm going to copy and I'm going to paste it in ChatGPT. I'm going to run the prompt in ChatGPT. Now, for time purposes, I already ran this prompt across Claude, Gemini, Copilot, and Grok. And we will visit those AI models as we execute this prompt. So like I mentioned, the first thing that's going to happen is going to give you an introduction. And then in the introduction, it's going to introduce you to the 4 questions, the 3 questions plus loading the PDF. So I'm going to say artificial intelligence is going to be my new industry. So I'm going to say I've been recently laid off, which is option B. And how soon do I need a job? I'm going to say as soon as possible. And then it's going to ask me for the PDFs. Okay. So let's upload all the PDFs, which I printed in the previous section of this episode. And there we go. It's going to start running the prompt. Okay, so ChatGPT finished executing the prompt, and the first thing it did, it made sure that the PDFs were validated and it could be readable, and the text could be extractable. And not only the text, but also the images, the 2 images, my profile picture and the banner. and there was no file corruption. That's very important, okay? So the next thing, it is able to detect all the major sections that your LinkedIn profile needs to have, and it actually showed me the sections that are not present and cannot be analyzed. Okay, so it's starting to look at all the different things and start to scoring everything. Okay, so it's, remember, I chose to have a job as soon as possible, so I'm in the crisis path, and it's starting to give me some pointers. Okay, and the next thing it did is it also worked on my about section, and it's telling me too long for first screen. So my AI value proposition is buried inside my LinkedIn profile. That's very important. That's something that you will see, and you really need to run this across all the AIs. You will see in a minute how all the AIs answer differently. And look at this, is crisis optimized, my about section. So it's telling me to rewrite this whole thing. Okay. And then in the experience as well, it's telling me to rewrite my experience, especially for the AI prompt engineer, and even for my last job before this one. The next thing it told me is to move my skills, the AI, all the way to the top. Right now, they're buried at the bottom. Okay. And it did not give me, it did not execute the entire prompt. And this sometimes happens during off-peak hours. So I told it, show me all the missing sections. So this is not necessary in Claude. In Claude, it ran the whole thing. Okay. And in Gemini, it ran the whole thing. So if we go to the image analysis, you see, it did run the image analysis and the strategic modes and the force rewrites, everything run in Gemini. But for some reason, there's off-peak hours where not everything is executed. So in ChatGPT, I told me, show me the missing sections not executed. And it showed me all the missing sections that were not executed. And then what I did is I told ChatGPT, please execute all sections that are missing. And so that's what it did. So I went and analyzed my image. It's professional, credible. It looks like a senior role, no visible red flags. And the banner, the same thing. The banner was good enough. But look, it made some suggestions or some criticism. It looks like a content creator first, and a horrible engineer second. So that's my banner's good, but not good to be hired. And so that's something important. Okay. So look, pre-layoff hardening. It's telling what to do and what not to do. And then it's telling you post-layoff recovery. And option C is, for someone who's looking passively. And it's talking about my newsletter, which has no impact in this video. So my education, strong, MITx, Snowflake talent, languages, leave as is. That's very important. Can't change the languages, recommendations. Pin some of my recommendations. And it starts to optimize my profile. It rewrote my headline, my about, my experience. And something very important here. So look at this, scripts and templates. So for my answers, when somebody actually contacts me, it's telling me to use these messages. These are 3 different messages for initiating contact with recruiters. That's very important. That's something that I didn't see in the other AIs. So if we look at Gemini's answers, we're okay. They're not bad. Okay. Look, direct messages, it also did that as well, but it only did 2. ChatGPT did 3. And Claude did very, very well. Claude was, I would say it was the best. Look, direct messages for network activation. employment gap explanation. So if somebody tells you, hey, how come you haven't been doing anything since June? Here's my gap. So I wrote that message. That's very, very impressive. Look, open to work posts. This is something that none of the other AIs did. So I would say Claude was the best, followed by ChatGPT, Gemini third. And unfortunately, Grok could not get past reading the PDFs. And Copilot was good, and I was able to extract the PDF content, but the answers were very plain vanilla. So that's it. I would not recommend using Copilot or Grok for analyzing your LinkedIn profile. I would say stick with the three. Stick with Claude. Claude was definitely the best. It did a lot of things. It told me how to answer emails and how to create posts. And it gave me headlines like Copilot. I'm sorry, like ChatGPT and Gemini. So these are the top three. So I would put Claude, ChatGPT, and Gemini, and I would stay away from Copilot and Grok. And I would really take the time to look at what everybody has to say. And remember, you can change your LinkedIn profile every time you apply for a job that you think you have a high chance of getting. That's almost like customizing your resume. Okay? So if you think you have a good chance of getting a job, you can go to this prompt and you can say, hey, I'm applying for this job and this is the industry, and then rewrite your LinkedIn profile. So when that recruiter and that employer goes to your LinkedIn, they will see exactly what they're looking for. And you can change it. You can change it every day. You can change it every week. So this is not set in stone. These are all suggestions. And you should take them as that. They're just suggestions. And you should take the combined suggestions across the top three. And that's what I would do. Now you'll be able to download this prompt. I'm going to paste this link in the YouTube description. And I always like to show people how to use GitHub. So once you go to that link, you're going to choose the correct language that you speak. And then there's two ways to download this prompt. The first way is you can click on the prompt and you click on the download icon. That's one way. And then the second way is to click on the code button, and then you can select everything. And then you can right click and select copy. Those are the two ways of downloading this prompt. Now here are my final thoughts. For time purposes and to make this video short, we only tested one profile. And in reality, many of these AI videos that I create could take 2 or 3 hours if we did some really in-depth testing. So taking that in consideration, I think that the prompt worked very well when you take all of the AI models results together as a whole and take the best points that each one has to offer. Now, Grok and Copilot did very bad. Gemini was okay, but Claude and ChatGPT were the best. Now, if you're concerned about privacy, I would not be uploading my LinkedIn profile to any of the Chinese AI models. And that does it for this episode. And don't forget, you can always contact me via LinkedIn. And thank you for watching.